Well, listen to this. Tax the rich to fund the R350 social relief of distress grant. Well, that's the plea by various civil society groups who've submitted a memorandum of demands to Treasury. The grant is expected to end in March of next year, and these various groups are calling for it to continue. They're demanding a wealth tax to fund this grant. They're also calling for the grant to be increased. Well, let's find out how much by. I'm joined by one of the campaigners' leaders. It's Tlou Seopa, representing Amandla.mobi. Tlou, good to have you with us on the show. I appreciate it. So there's two big issues we need to talk about. We'll talk about the call for an increase in a moment. You can tell me what the demand is there. First of all, why tax the rich to pay for a grant that was never there before? What's the thinking?
So initially, the call to tax the rich was a response to the much-loved question about where will the money come from, right? So we have an issue of whenever we speak of corruption, we also speak of millions or billions of money either stolen or looted or even misused by officials who are supposed to be ensuring that much-needed services are provided in this country.
So I suppose the other side of the argument here could be because government's corruption is not resulting in people who need this money. I don't think anyone's arguing there that need this money because it's being stolen through corruption. Now we tax the rich. Does it seem fair?
Everybody is getting taxed, right? So everybody pays tax now. The issue here is that rich people keep getting richer, right? While people from low-income backgrounds just keep getting poorer, right?
The gap is widening.
The gap is very wide, and we know the inequality rate in South Africa is very high. So many times you find that people who keep earning this money, these rich people, earn this money through the labor of people in low-income backgrounds. Right now, we are at a point where people are just unemployed. People do not have any means of income to support themselves, right? Just to get that 20 rands to buy bread is stressful for many people in this country. And so we're saying that you can actually find the money. You need to tax rich people more. You know, they won't starve. It's not like they will starve with a little bit more tax. Yeah.
Let's talk about when we are suggesting rich people. Who rich people? Give me a bracket. Give me an LSM. Give me an income bracket we're talking about. Because rich could be very rich, or are we talking lower to middle income, middle to upper? Who are we talking about here?
So we are talking about people who are earning more than 1 million. So from 1 million and above every year, right? So these are people who actually owns mansions, people who owns luxury cars, people who have millions of monies in their accounts. We also have people who are able to evade tax, so we're asking SARS to also go after those people, because if people aren't paying tax, then it means a lot more people suffer, you know, in your low-income background communities.
I don't think many people would disagree, Tlou, that there needs to be some relief for those who, for various reasons, need social support as well. But you've raised two issues here, which makes it sound like because of the ineptitude of government and SARS unable to get the money that they should be, and that's because of non-compliant taxpayers.
Yes.
It's becoming the problem of those who can afford to do it. Because there's a failure on government, isn't there? That's what you're telling me.
No, definitely. I also think that it is quite sad that when we speak of poverty, when we speak of hunger, when we speak of people who are unemployed, money becomes an issue, right? And like I said earlier, that when we speak of corruption, there's billions of money involved. So at this point, it is not a matter of is there money or not. It's a matter of political willingness, right? So we've seen many times that with political willingness, things happen. And the 350 grant is one example, although right now a lot of people are not getting it because that willingness has slowly deteriorated, meaning people have gotten excluded. There were regulations that were passed that are, you know, continuously ensuring that people are not getting this grant. So at this point, because the question of where will the money come from came, we have economists all around the country who came with this proposal to, okay, tax rich people, right? So now it is just a matter of political willingness. Are our politicians willing to go that far to ensure that millions of people in this country who are starving, who are struggling to put food on the table for themselves and their families, you know, are fed? Yeah.
Some would suggest this is simply another handout. How does this help someone in a position like this? And I can't imagine a position that many people find themselves in. Some critics are going to say this seems like another handout. Eventually that money is going to run out. How does this help people in these situations to find work, to be able to earn their own money, to not rely on a distress grant? Because that's the goal. Surely we want as few people relying on grants as possible. How does this help them achieve that if they keep getting the handouts? That's what critics are saying.
You know, this thing of calling grants handouts is a very inhumane thing to say, because if we are being honest, nobody wants to live on grants for the rest of their lives, right? And another thing that people are not understanding is that grants are not against jobs. The reality is that they're just not there right now, and people are unable to support themselves. So we're saying at least give people this, you know, the basic income grant is recommended to start at 1,335 per person per month. So we're saying at least empower people to be able to survive, and you'll be surprised how people actually utilize this money. Like 350 is not a lot of money, but a lot of people are able to make it reach beyond what you could even imagine, right? So calling it handouts is more like you're shaming poor people for being poor, and in the first place, it's not their fault that they're poor.
And let's just talk about the call as well, as you just touched on it now. Where did the number come from to increase this to 1,335? What are you basing that on?
So the number is based on the food poverty line, basically. So you will note that the 350, for a person to qualify for the 350, they need to at least get less than 624 in their account. So that is called the food poverty line. So if it goes a bit above that, at least people can be able to afford their basic needs. So it is based on that.
I'll ask you this as a last question. Just want to come back to the tax question.
Yes.
On this call for the rich to be taxed. You just to remind viewers, you're talking about R1 million and more per year. Just make sure I understand that.
Yes.
What is the tax percentage that you're expecting? We can't just say tax the rich. What amount of tax are you?
So it is the richest from my knowledge and what I have read. I hope I'm correct, but it is the richest 1% in this country. So it is about 300,000 multimillionaires in this country.
And of that, I think is what I'm asking, how much do you want to tax? So say that number you just gave me now, what is the tax? Is it 1% of their income? Is it 2%?
So it depends on their income. So for people earning 1 million yearly, so it's 1%. So the tax increases based on the income people are getting yearly. But unfortunately, I'm not an economist, so I cannot go more into the numbers. Yeah.
That's okay, but what you've given me is a lot to move forward on the conversation with and have this discussion, because it's not a new call for the rich to be taxed, but that's why I wanted to just get a sense of where was the thinking coming from and what numbers were you talking about as we take the conversation forward. I'm sure we're going to get a reaction. Tlou, thank you very much for coming in to speak to us. Tlou Seopa, representing Amandla.mobi. What do you make of a tax for the rich to pay for this social relief of distress grant? But as you answer that, do give some thoughts. Imagine trying to survive on R350 a month. Think about that as well.